Hi everyone, my name is Emily Singer Lucio and I'm the ADA coordinator for the University of Maryland.
I'm Kelsey Eustace. I'm staff here at the University of Maryland. I'm the Assistant Director of Marketing for the College of Arts and Humanities.
Great, thanks Kelsey. Welcome. We're happy to have you here today. I wanted to talk with you a little bit about you and your life on campus with a disability. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am, as I said, I'm staff. I've been working here for almost 5 years now. And my disability is hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is sort of a mouthful. But I just call it like EDS for short. And there, are many different types of EDS. I have the hypermobility type, which is the most common. But there are other types, but I'm just going to speak to the one that I have today.
Great. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so EDS has, a lot of different symptoms, but basically it's an inherited collagen disorder. And as a connective tissue issue, it really manifests in the entire body as it's collagen's job to hold the entire body together. So as the name would suggest, like hypermobility means like very flexible or like overly flexible. So I was always like double jointed growing up. Like I could do the splits. I was enrolled in like ballet and dance.
Wow.
I was honestly like even in the dance world, one of the most flexible people I've ever met.
Have you ever seen those contortionists who do things? They always amaze me that they can bend back so far.
Yeah. So that was kind of me. Like, not only could I do the splits, but I could do the splits and then like bend my foot back to touch my head.
That's great.
And I didn't grow up knowing that anything was, wrong or that it was like a medical condition. I just thought, my body was awesome because I was so flexible. And it wasn't really until
A lot of people would like to be able to do that.
yeah, it wasn't really until later in life that I realized that there were just a lot of other symptoms along the way, like red flags per se, and that then it sort of turned into a negative thing that I'm, still working through now. So EDS has like a lot of different symptoms that can manifest differently in different people. The flexibility one is a huge one indicator, but it can also come with like joint issues and pain. Usually not like when you're a child, but as you get older, although it can manifest in people differently. And because we're so flexible, like joint dislocations and parsal dislocations are, common. TMJ and jaw pain, stomach and GI issues, headaches, fragile skin, overly stretchy skin. My favorite is soft, silky skin.
Wow, that's a lot to deal with.
So, yeah, like, going to the geneticist to, like, what is wrong with me? Like, please diagnose me. And her being like, well, is your skin soft and silky? Like, let's touch it and see. Like, how far does it stretch? Which is pretty far, actually. It is a lot, yes.
What was it like learning you had a disability? Tell me a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, so, I had no idea growing up that I had this medical condition. I mean, EDS is genetic. I was born with it. I had no idea. I was very flexible, so, I went into ballet, and flexibility seemed to be my strength. And it wasn't really until my late 20s that I started having more pain than I thought was normal, even for a dancer. Like, I'd been in and out of physical therapy sort of all through high school and college, but I just thought that was like, I was sort of unlucky for a dancer. And I mean, a lot of dancers get injured and go through physical therapy. But for me, it was a little bit more than others. And like, I would bruise a lot more than others. But I just wasn't putting the pieces together. But, then in my late 20s, there was a point where my body just really started deteriorating downhill. And walking became difficult. The pain severity was so bad. I was struggling with lifting a glass of water with my left hand. It was that bad. It was a low point for sure.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that.
So, when something like that happens, it's oh, I'm injured. I must have injured something in my back, my hip, what's going on. So, you go to your primary care physician and they're here are some anti-inflammatories, rest, ice, hold back on the dancing for a little while. You'll be better in no time. Well, I got worse. I didn't get better. So it's back to the doctor again. And then I saw, a physical medicine doctor who then sent me to the rheumatologist who then sent me back to the physical medicine doctor who, then sent me to the geneticist, where I finally got diagnosed with hypermobile EDS. But it was a journey, and it took a little under 2 years to get diagnosed.
That must have been hard.
But I was actually lucky, because the average time to a diagnosis for EDS could be anywhere from 8 years to 12 years or more. Is it usually something that's diagnosed early on, when people are younger or older?
Because you said you were in your 20s when you realized.
And I've read a lot of stories about different people in the EDS community and their individual stories. And for people who don't know, their parents don't know, it can take many years, because one of the markers to get diagnosed is anyone in your family diagnosed, because it's it's genetic, it's inherited. So if you don't know, you just don't know what you don't know. So many people, they seem to have a similar story to mine, where they've had struggles through their childhood, but once they get to a certain age, whether it's their teenage years or their college years, or their 20s or 30s. Some people are lucky and they last till their 40s. And then they just seem to go downhill very fast with the pain severity and the joint issues.
It's a lot to deal with.
And you really have to advocate in the medical system. I felt a little bit like I was bouncing from doctor to doctor. My one doctor was very honest, and he was like, "You are a medical mystery. I don't know what's wrong with you." And I was like, "Oh, medical mystery. Great." That's reassuring. You're the one who's supposed to have the answers. You're supposed to be able to heal me.
Right.
And I was like, well, what happens next? Will I get better? He's like, well, you could get better, you could stay the same, or you could get worse.
Well, that's not very helpful.
Yeah. So, it's just a lot to, absorb, in a very quick doctor's appointment. So I just had to, really keep, I guess, advocating for myself in the medical system to get a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And it was the rheumatologist. He was actually the most empathetic doctor I've ever met. He was like, "You're hypermobile." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I've known this for years. I'm a dancer. I know I'm hypermobile." And he's like, "But actually you're super hypermobile." So maybe go talk to the geneticist.
So do you still dance at all?
I danced up until this bad flare happened, and then I could not dance anymore.
Sorry.
I was a dance and English major. I've been dancing ever since I was 3, and I taught dance starting in high school, and up until, I couldn't anymore. So I didn't really choose to stop dancing. It's sort of my body made the decision for me.
Yeah, that must have been hard.
Yeah.
especially something you love so much. Um, so what have you found helpful to share about yourself with others as you encounter other people and they learn about your situation?
Yeah, so um I think, having an invisible disability can be hard, but it also like gives me more power because I can choose like who I want to tell, like when I want to disclose, how much I want to disclose. Um but at the same time, like people don't look at me and see someone who's disabled most of the time. Um so like sometimes I feel like I'm being judged, like if I'm parking in like a handicap spot, or if I'm requesting wheelchair service at the airport.
Yeah, I see stuff like that all the
And
time.
then they see me like stand up and walk to like the bathroom and they're like, "Oh my goodness, a miracle," or like, "Oh, she's faking." Um so I think, rather than like jumping into like preconceived notions about people, it's better to like just have an open mind. Um, and my friend said to me that pretty much everyone is going through something.
Yep.
It might not be a disability, it may be something else. But I think I read a stat on the CDC website that 1 in 4 Americans have some sort of disability. So I feel like it's actually more common than we think. But maybe we just don't see it because, I mean, at least for me, like deciding to disclose my disability, like, was sort of a fraught decision. Like, I felt very vulnerable. Like, there was definitely some fear there. Um,
It's a hard thing to do for some people. But it's, I think it's in the years that I've been working in this field, I always tell people that, the best thing you can do is be open and honest about it, and it's part of who you are, right? And so if there is assistance you need, the best way to do that is to disclose it to people, right? But it should always be up to you as to who you disclose it to and when, right? Not somebody else. But and you're right, it is a hard decision. But I'm a proponent of disclosing when you can, because it can be helpful. Because otherwise, if you just hide it and don't get the help you need, right, then it can make it worse, right?
yeah, for sure. And navigating the like accessibility accommodation process for me was like completely new because I grew up my whole life, thinking I was healthy, I had like the best body ever, that I was just like so lucky that I was gonna continue dancing my entire life. um, and then like going through something like this where like I was struggling to like get out of bed and like walk from my bedroom to the kitchen just to get a glass of water. Like it changed everything. Um, so like, approaching the accommodations, at first I didn't even realize I like fell under ADA protections. Like I had to, do a little bit of research and like learn a little bit more about like the definitions of disability and how it applied to me and like what sort of, accommodations I should even ask for in the workplace. But like my goal was always to like continue doing my job like to the best of my ability and, ask for the help, that I needed and the accommodations that I needed to make that possible.
Has the accommodations you received been helpful in that respect?
Yeah, so I've had like enormous support, from my supervisors and from the university, and the accommodations process here, was very smooth. And that was really helpful. I was even told like I don't have to disclose if I don't want to. Like there's absolutely no pressure to do so. But, that was my choice. I chose to do that because I thought, people would be more understanding, and it would just be more effective if people sort of knew a little bit more about what I was facing.
I find that's true all the way around, right? Using students as an example, right? They get an accommodation letter from the ADS office, right? And they give it to, and it goes to their faculty member. And some people think that's all there is, right? And there doesn't need to be any more. But I always think that it's a really good idea if a student can actually take the time to sit down and have a conversation with their faculty member and talk about that. And they don't have to disclose everything but the kitchen sink about their disability, right? But if they can at least disclose the stuff that's pertinent to what they need to do in the classroom and the accommodations they need and how that's relevant, right? That's only going to allow the faculty member to be more helpful in terms of providing what they need, right? Would you say that that's true?
I mean, I haven't gone through accommodations as a student.
Yeah.
But I mean, as a staff member, I feel like I've definitely been able to go through the ADA accommodation process smoothly and, get the assistance that I need, have more telework opportunities available to me. While, still being able to come, work on campus as much as I can physically do.
Yeah, and I think that's important too, right? And whether you're a student or a faculty or a staff, right? We have lots of people on this campus who need accommodations, and it's important for everybody to understand what it is you need to be equally effective in what you're doing, whether it's being a student or employee, right? So what do you wish other people knew or understood about you?
About me. Maybe that I'm just like one example of hypermobile EDS. It looks very differently in different people, and like we're all unique.
I think that's a really good point. I don't want to cut you off. I do think that's a really good point, right? I think people tend to put all different disabilities sort of in a box, right? They assume that everybody who uses a wheelchair is going to have the same, issues or whatever, right? Everybody who has a learning disability has the same issues. Everybody who's blind or low vision, right? And it's not the same. Everyone is very unique and very different, and you can't fit a square peg in a round hole, right?
Yeah, and I'm still like figuring out like what sort of like mobility aids work best for me. Like some people have recommended a cane, but I actually think it would cause me more pain just because of the sort of like leaning over to use it. And then like, I've used like sort of those electronic like mobility wheelchair scooters, but like I don't actually have one of those myself. So like if it's not provided, like I don't think I could wheel myself in like a regular wheelchair. Like I need someone, usually my husband, to push me. But I mean that doesn't always feel so great either. Like we went to the zoo for my birthday and it was fine until we had to like turn around to go home, and then he's like, the National Zoo is on a hill, so he's like pushing me up the hill and he's like, I can't stop, like I just have to keep going with you because if I stop we're never gonna make it to the top. So I mean I was really happy to be able to like get out of my house and like see the animals at the zoo, but I felt like a literal burden.
That's too bad. Yeah, I think we look at stairs and ramps, right, when we build a building, and people always say, oh, we have a ramp, so that works for everybody with a disability, right? And I'm going to make an assumption here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not always the best for you, maybe, because could be the longer way around. Is that a fair assumption or no?
So sometimes I can do stairs, sometimes I can't. It just depends how my sacroiliac joint is doing that day. Is it inflamed? Is it in the socket correctly? Is it sort of out? And like my hip too, and it just depends. I know I can't go up the stairs a bunch of times in a row, and like if I'm carrying things then it sort of changes. So I'm always like doing these mental calculations, right? Like, okay, I want to get like from point A to point B. Like what would be the best way for me to get there so I can ensure that like I can do what I need to do there and then be able to like get home again. Like I don't want to end up like stranded somewhere, like in pain. Like that would be horrible.
Right. Do you tend to use the ramps mostly?
I like the elevator. If it's just like a handful of stairs, that is usually okay. But usually the ramp's easier because it's like a gentle incline.
But the stairs would have to have a handrail. Is that, do you tend to hold onto the handrail or no?
No.
No, okay.
My balance is actually pretty good, but
Good.
I was a dancer, so I sort of refined that skill for years, but some people with EDS do struggle with balance, and some of them really struggle with POTS, which also comes with like dizziness and fainting.
Oh, yeah.
So again, it's like different for each person, and the mascot is a zebra because zebras all have different stripes. And people with EDS, we all have different unique needs as well, although there is a lot of overlap.
Interesting. So, what are some sort of perceived ideas you think people have about you?
Sometimes I wonder if it's more like me having preconceived ideas of them having preconceived ideas of me. Like,
Interesting.
yeah, very meta. But, one of the things I've had to come to terms with this disability is that what other people think, especially what strangers think of me, doesn't really matter that much. Like, one thing that was hard was, I had all these shoes that I loved that, like, worked with all of my work outfits, and, like, most of them can't wear anymore.
Oh.
Had to buy, shoes with, like, good arch support and, like, bounce and, basically, like, really nice tennis shoes. So, that was, like, one thing, and the other thing is that, like, I can really struggle sometimes with shaving my legs. Like, it can cause a pain flare that lasts for a couple of days. So I'm like, how important is shaving my legs to me today based on what I want to do for the next few days? So it's always these, like, calculations, right? Like, how much can I do? And, like, what do I want to do? And what am I prioritizing? I don't know if you're familiar with spoon theory. So spoon theory is often helpful for describing chronic illness, chronic pain. And basically it's a theory where, like, each of us wakes up each morning and we have a different number of spoons. So maybe today when I woke up, I had 5 spoons, which was enough for me to, like, get up, get dressed, drive to work, do my work responsibilities, like, come talk on this podcast, drive home. But by the time I get home, I've used up all my spoons, so I can't make dinner. So I, need to order food, or, my husband has to cook, or, like, I'm microwaving a frozen meal. And then basically I just have to rest the rest of the evening because all of my spoons are gone. They've been used. And then maybe tomorrow I'll still be recovering from today, and instead of 5 spoons, I'll wake up with 3. And tomorrow will be an at-home day. And then maybe the next day, the weather will be warm, and, I'll wake up and it'll be an amazing day, and I'll have 7 spoons. So it just depends, and there are things I can do to prepare, but there are also factors outside of my control. Like when the weather shifted from sort of summer weather to, like, cold fall weather overnight, I woke up the next day and I was just in so much pain. And I hadn't even done anything. So I kind of woke up with no spoons.
So sorry, is your work situation flexible when that happens?
Yeah, so part of my ADA accommodations are, expanded telework, so being able to work from home when needed, and, there's always sick leave as well.
That's good. What have been some of your biggest challenges, and how have you worked through them?
So getting the diagnosis, that was sort of the first challenge, like figuring out, like, what's wrong with me? Because, going into it, I thought it was just, another injury, which I had sort of been facing throughout my life, both, like, within dance and then outside of dance. Like, I injured my foot and it took years to recover, and that was just rolling on my ankle, not even in the dance studio. So, advocating for myself, in the medical system to get a diagnosis, and then once I got the diagnosis, being put in like physical therapy with an EDS specialist, like figuring out, because there's no cure, but there are treatments to make my quality of life a little bit better. So I feel like, these past several years, I've really been like putting in the effort to just sort of claw back every bit of life that I can. I sort of think of my experience with this illness as sort of like a before and after, even though it was there the entire time. And, I think it has really changed me as a person. Because before, I saw the world in a very different way, and now I see it very differently. And maybe it has made me like more empathetic and more caring towards others, and just realizing that like everyone's going through something. Another challenge was like feeling okay to like ask for help or like create boundaries around like how much I can lift or move. And I mean, sometimes that changes like day to day based on what I already did that day or did the day before. So it can be, every day can be a challenge sometimes, but there are still, pathways to success. It just takes a lot of planning and preparation to be my best self.
It's a good attitude, right? Yeah. So in our final moments, is there anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, so I have a little quote here about why having a label or a diagnosis is important. Because I had one doctor who didn't want to burden me with the label of hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, because he thought it would just be like too much to bear, like too negative. But I insisted. And so the quote that's shared a lot in the EDS community is, why do you need a label? And the answer is because there is comfort in knowing that you are a normal zebra and not a strange horse. Because you can't find community with other zebras if you don't know you belong. And because it is impossible for a zebra to be happy or healthy, spending its life feeling like a failed horse. And I guess, the zebra represents EDS. It's, the mascot of EDS. And for me, part of, accepting this diagnosis, accepting the label disability, it was hard. Like, I really rejected it at first. I was like, no, like, I'm just injured. Like, I'm going to get better. But then I didn't. And then everything sort of lined up and was pointing at the same answer. That, I do have EDS. I've always had it. And, I need to accept it and create, like, the best quality of life for myself that I can. And I have found a ton of support in finding others like me, both in the disability community sort of as a whole, but also, like, EDS-specific support groups. If I have a question, like, I can just, like, post it on the wall of the support group, and, like, within hours, like, I'll have, like, a bunch of, like, answers or recommendations, or, like, have you thought about this?
It's great, right?
And it helps me, it gives me reassurance, because I know I'm not alone, that, like, even though this is a rare disease, there are others out there, just like me, and we're stronger together.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you sharing so much about yourself, and thank you to everyone for listening today. So for more information on accessibility at the University of Maryland, I encourage you to go to the website accessibility.umd.edu, and you can find more information there, and we hope to see you at our next podcast. Thanks again, Kelsey. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. This was an honor.
Thank you.